Welcome to Chris Henry's Myth Busting series, and what we're going to talk about today is something that lots and lots of players talk about, and there's lots of misinformation, there's lots of confusing information, and that is the stance. Where should your feet be? How should your legs be positioned? And how does that relate to how you're striking the cue ball? Well, because everybody's different heights, different sizes, stance is not fixed. There's no right or wrong way to stand. It's all about the individual. But there are some basic rules for stance, obviously, because the stance is all about creating stability, helping you to get into the right position and being stable so that you can then deliver your cue in a very accurate and precise way. So let's have a quick look at a couple of different stances. Maybe you can just get down onto my feet here. Of course, the width of the stance, how wide the stance is very important, because if you're too narrow, you're going to be rocking around a little bit. And when you swing that arm with the cue and the weight, you don't want to be moving. So people talk about shoulder width minimum for a stance, and I like that. I think getting your feet around about shoulder width minimum is a good thing. Some players are wider, some players are narrower, but it's better to be stable. And then the next point is, should your stance be square to the shot, or should it be a little bit more sideways to the shot? Now this is important, because what we're talking about here is getting this part of your body in the right place. In other words, the shoulder angle to the shot. And what you're looking to achieve is a good back arm position that allows you, with your particular structure, to swing this cue and strike that ball where intended, and of course also aim it where intended. So there's different things you can do, but the biggest determining factor in terms of where this elbow is how you turn your shoulders into the shot. Now there's two ways you can do it. You can go square with your feet to the shot, but what that would mean is you would then need to turn quite a lot. Your torso and your shoulders would need to turn a lot to get things into the right place, into the right position. Some players, they prefer to stand actually in the beginning at the setup a little bit more sideways on. So now actually the turn of the shoulders has already started before you go down to the shot. So there's a square stance, there's a slightly more sideways on stance. So then we're talking now about the legs. If you're right-handed, you generally, and what people are advising is that your left leg should be bent and your right leg should be straight, thrust backwards to create that stability. Players like Stephen Hendry, very, very straight right leg, what we call the prop leg. Players like John Higgins, Ronnie O'Sullivan, and many other players like Kyron Wilson and Mark King, they actually have both legs bent, some very bent, some slightly bent. And again, it's all about getting this cue down towards the table, being as parallel as possible. And sometimes if you're very tall, you might need to bend both legs to get low enough, or you could stand quite wide to get low enough for the shot as well. You don't really want to be cueing down on the shot. So stance is important, but it really is all about positioning your body in the right place and then getting the right turn here to get into the right position for your structure to be able to strike the ball effectively. So this is an interesting aspect. And also as well is where, in terms of the line of the shot, the line of aim, should you be standing. Some players like to stand very central and get on the line of aim before they play the shot. Some players like to have their head on the line of aim, but they stand a little bit more to the side with their feet preparing themselves to walk straight into the shot. And that's the next point. Should you walk into the shot? Or should you already be in position with your feet before you walk into the shot? And again, there's no real fast rules for this. You've just basically got to find what works best for you. Some players like to have this prop foot on the line of aim before they go in. Some don't. Some are a little bit to the side and then they walk sideways into the shot. It's all about testing. You've got to get some feedback in terms of how you set yourself up with your stance. And with these two here, the legs and the feet, that creates a tripod with the bridge hand and arm. And now you've got these three things working together to create stability. But again, like we've talked about before here, we've got the balls. And the best way to get feedback is use this ball here, this light 17-gram ball, and try a sideways on stance. So on this first attempt, I'm going to try and pop this into the corner pocket. I'm going to try a square stance. And we'll see where my shoulders are, and we'll see then how that results in the strike. Let's have a quick look at this. Square stance, setting up on the ball. I'm now aiming the ball into the pocket. And the result is, I've actually applied a little bit of left-hand side spin. Now, with a normal ball, I would not have seen that. But with the light 17-gram, the ball's ball, it gives me the feedback straight away. That was with quite a square stance, which means my shoulders would also be quite square to the shot, which then results in, if the shoulders are square, it results in the elbow being a little bit outside the line of aim. And that sometimes doesn't help. So let's have another go at that. But this time I'm going to make my stance a little bit more sideways. So I'm going to put my left foot a little bit now in front of my right foot, and my right foot will be on the line of aim. Let's have a look at the result of this. So a little bit more sideways, setting up. My shoulders are now a little bit more sideways on. And you can clearly see there, because I've now turned a little bit more, I've got my shoulders a little bit more sideways. My elbow's now a little bit more behind my shoulder. And that allowed me to produce a very accurate strike of the ball and send the ball where I intended. So the strike was very good. So stance is personal, it's individual. You don't have to stand in a certain way based on textbook. You've got to find the right stance and position for you as an individual snooker player.